In this video, we're going to look at options for reforming Parliament. One of the most visible parts of Parliament is the question period that happens each week. The Prime Minister will stand up, take questions from the opposition, and the Prime Minister's had enough. Members of the Cabinet will take questions. People in the opposition don't ask real questions. The people in government don't give real answers. There's a lot of shouting, a lot of name-calling. It really isn't good for much. In fact, it's degenerated into just a partisan display of talking points and bickering. So there are proposals to try and reform question period or get rid of it altogether. What could be done to reform it? Well, we could change the types of questions that are asked. We could force governments to provide substantive answers. One option, however, is to make it more like the United Kingdom. They have a Prime Minister's question time whereby the Prime Minister basically stands up for an hour or more and gets grilled from all members of the House of Commons, even members of their own party. And it is not a matter of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet responding to questions. The Prime Minister stays there and gets peppered with questions on any topic from all directions from any member of the House of Commons. And so it makes for it's a demanding task for the Prime Minister. They got to be able to talk on any issue. And they're even responding to members of their own party. And so that gives a sort of assurance that people's voices from their constituencies might be more represented than they are in Parliament that is typically run in a more partisan framework. And that leads to the role of party discipline. Maybe party discipline is too strong in the House of Commons, and that's why question period is such a problem. Maybe there's a way to reduce party discipline. And what might that look like? More free votes. That means that the parties would not whip votes. So the opposition and the government would allow their members of Parliament to vote the way they want to ensure that they're representing the wishes of their constituents rather than their party leader. We could also empower backbench members of Parliament to have more say in determining the agenda and proposing legislation. Again, creating that link with the constituency and their member of Parliament rather than the party and the party leader. Could also enable members of Parliament to remove leaders they don't like. Sometimes there's tension with the caucus and the leader, yet what the leader goes because party discipline is so strong. One formal measure of reform was introduced in 2014. It was eventually passed in 2015 by Michael Chong, who was a Conservative member of Parliament. And there was 4 elements to this reform. It was attempting to give powers back to the members that had typically been assumed by the party leader. And how it worked was that after each election, each new parliament would be convened and the members would vote on 4 things. Whether they wanted to control their own caucus membership, that meant that the MPs could kick out a member of their party and not the leader. The MPs would elect the caucus chair to run the weekly caucus meeting. The MPs could launch a leadership review if they didn't like their party leader. And the MPs could choose an interim leader. All of these functions had been assumed by the leader's office, and this was a way of empowering members to have more freedom. One of the amendments that was sort of incorporated into the bill was, however, that the members would vote each parliament on whether they wanted these powers or not. And in practice, they didn't often take that power up. You could see a lot of no's with the parties selecting that they did not want to embrace those powers and instead gave the party to the power leader. The Liberals, in fact, in 2015 didn't even hold a vote. And there could be some reasons for this. You're in a room with your party leader and your party leader is saying, hey, are you sure you want to vote on these powers? Even though these measures were designed to get around party discipline, it's hard to imagine that a party leader would tell his MPs to go embrace these reforms. So just to recap, there's a few options of many for reforming Parliament. The reforming question period is one obvious place to start. The general matter of reducing party discipline in the House of Commons, that might help empower backbench MPs to better represent the wishes of their constituents back home. However, no matter what reforms have been tried and what reforms are proposed, it's really tough to get around the party discipline. The whole institution of Parliament is organized based on parties and party discipline. And so it really doesn't work if those parties don't work together. And it's a challenge to overcome that.